Well, alrighty then. Testing, testing, one, two, three. Should be working. Should be live. I believe it is. Oh, okay, it is working. That's good. Now I just need to go to my channel and I want to pull up the live chat. For those of you who are just joining, whether you come into the live chat or you come and listen later, I'm going to get started very quick because I got a lot of stuff to go over. But give me just a moment here. Where is my video? There it is right there. Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. I don't know how many people I'm going to have in the live chat, but I will say this real quick. I spent a little bit of time today to do some research, and this is actually a video that I thought about making before, and I didn't really want to make this video, but I'm tired of seeing the same videos over and over and over again with the same things over and over again. And if it wasn't harming anybody, then I would just let it go. But it's causing a lot of misconceptions on the low end. Okay, on the low end, there have been misconceptions and misrepresentations and misinformation, and this is just the low end. On the high end, it's hurting people. It's causing, it's insulting people. It's causing people to give up on their dreams. It's causing people to feel discouraged, and it's just stirring up negative emotion and hate, real hate. It's stirring up real hate, and I'm just tired of seeing it because I remember a long time ago when I wanted to change my life and I wanted to come to Japan. It took me a long time. It took me many years to get here. I didn't marry a Japanese national and come over here. I didn't have the easy way when I came to Japan. I had to work really hard to get here, and it took me a lot of years. After my wife left and took my daughter away, and then I recovered from an injury in the hospital, I went back to university, spent a few years there to get my degree. As soon as I got that, I left America. Even then, I couldn't come straight to Japan. I went to China. The reason I went to China, let me minimize this for a second. Hey, Tokyo Walking. You haven't missed anything yet. I'm about to get started. I just started the live stream a couple of minutes ago. I had some trouble getting it started, but I finally got it going. And I've got a lot to cover. Trust me, I've got a lot to cover. And I'm going to post this video. I'm going to keep the video up so after it's live, you can always come back and go through it. But hopefully YouTube will mark the chapters because everything is laid out. Everything, there's an outline. Everything is organized. I've got sources. I'm not just spouting my opinion off today, and that's the whole reason I'm doing this, is because I'm tired of people just going on YouTube, spouting off their opinion and using their emotions to get followers and to stir people up and discourage people and hurt people and discredit people and use their opinions as facts, use their emotions as facts while giving no real information. I'm just tired of that. I like for people to get factual information. Ever since I was a kid, I have been a truth teller. I value the truth highly, and this is why I actually didn't get along too well in my family, because I don't want a fake family. I don't want a facade. I don't want fake friendships. I don't want fake relationships. I don't even like the niceties that we have in our jobs. You know, sometimes people just pretend, and you know that they're just pretending to be nice. I'm not into any of that stuff. I want the truth, and I want you guys and gals to have the truth also. So this is a special video that I don't normally make, but like I said, I've seen some videos consistently dropping on YouTube that do nothing but spread misinformation and hate and vitriol, just poison. That's what it is. It's poison. There's poison being spread on YouTube about, and it's not about Japan, but it's being presented in a way to make foreigners look like trash, which is ironic because it's coming from a foreigner who benefits from all the things that they're claiming that other foreigners are taking advantage of. You know, all the deadbeats, the lowlives, the the lazy people, the ones that don't contribute to society. They're coming here and leeching off the teat of Japan, and yet the person who it benefits from all of those same things is not mentioned at all, and doesn't even bother to put the face on the camera. And so I am addressing that today. So anyway, back to what I was saying before I get into it, I just wanted to say that I had to go to China first and work in China for a while. I was there for almost 7 years before I finally found the right time and had saved up enough money. It was about $20,000 I saved up from teaching. And yeah, Kane, if you can do that, I appreciate it if you're interested in that. But I was just saying that the reason I'm prefacing this with just a tiny bit about me is because I want you guys to understand that I didn't just jump on a plane and come to Japan and show up here, and I'm not a wet behind the ears kind of guy. I know that I look like I'm about 15 years old, but I'm actually 50. Can you believe it? I turned 50 earlier this year. Anyway, the reason that I mentioned all of my background is because I worked my butt off to get here to Japan. My life fell apart. I made an attempt on my life when I was in America. That was in 2007, and many of you maybe don't know that. But because of that, I spent a lot of time in the hospital, and it took me more than a year to get back to work. But after that, because of my condition, I was able to go back to school, go back to university, get my degree, and my thought was, you know what, why not start life over? Where do I want to go? And there was only one answer, and that was Japan. However, I didn't know anybody in Japan, and I couldn't just get a job in Japan right out of school. So I went to China. Why? Because I knew a guy in China, and he was able to set me up there. I started teaching. I saved up about $20,000. I had a great experience. I made a lot of friends. And my last job there was teaching for a celebrity, a guy who was really famous in China. It was a great experience. Lived in 3 different cities, and during that time I traveled all over Japan, actually. I flew to Japan about 15 times in 7 years. Finally, when I decided to move to Japan, I moved to Tokyo. I was in Tokyo for a year, and it just so happens that the pandemic started. So all of the money that I saved basically went down to nothing because I didn't have to, but I was supporting my daughter every month. She was going to university by that time. And I just really wanted to help her out because my parents never helped me out. And that came back to bite me in the butt later on, but that's another story. Anyway, I was giving her hundreds of dollars every month, and I was paying for all my bills in Tokyo, and I wasn't making any money, and I was trying to figure out how to get a job, but nobody was hiring, and nobody was doing anything really. So it wasn't my doings. It was the pandemic. But when I finally found a job, it was in Hiroshima. So I left Tokyo after 1 year, and I came here to Hiroshima Prefecture. For those of you who don't know, Hiroshima is not just a city, it's a big area. It's a prefecture. And inside that prefecture are many other cities and towns. And I worked in a place called Saijo for a while, and then I moved to Hiroshima City and worked there for a while. And then suddenly I started getting really ill. But right before that is when I bought my house. This is the house that I'm in right now. This is my Kominka. The only reason I'm able to come to you live out here now is because I have Starlink. I have the Starlink internet here. So I'm out in the Inaka, in the countryside, in my Edo period house. But I bought this house nearly 4 years ago. I've had it now for almost 4 years. And I started to build my life here. I got a car, got my license, etc., etc. I dated a couple times. I got a girlfriend, and then suddenly I had a turn for the worse with my health. And it turned out to be a cancer tumor on my kidney. So I had to take some time off of work, and the doctors literally told me at one point I probably had 2 years to live. And so you can see that some things have been pretty difficult for me, and I'm lucky that through the pandemic and in my health situation I just happened to be in Japan at the time. Because if I had been in China, I would have been really screwed. I wouldn't have had any insurance. And on top of that, if I had been in the U.S., it would have been really expensive, and I wouldn't have had any support at all. But at least here in Japan, the treatments, the medicines, the trips to the hospital were more affordable for me. Um, and I had the really good social support because they have social support services and counselors at the hospital. And my main supporter is Yonezawa-san, and Yonezawa-san is like gold. And also Miyake-san, my tutor and sensei in Saijo, just like gold. I've had lots of people step in here and there when I needed them the most, and many times I can't tell you how many times I wanted to die. I really just wanted to lie down on the ground and give up and die. And that's not just once or twice or 12 times or 20 times. I'm talking about countless, and I'm not exaggerating. I've been through a lot in my life, but dealing with cancer, it's something that caused me to just want to become somebody else's problem. That's the way I felt. I was tired of trying. I was tired of supporting myself, tired of always making myself go, tired of encouraging myself, tired of motivating myself, always tired of doing it by myself. But something inside of me just kept pushing me, and I kept going, and I got through it. I went back to school. I studied Japanese for a year. 今まだ上手じゃありません. I still can't speak very well right now. I just know a little bit of Japanese. My Japanese is not bad. It's definitely not great, but it's not bad. And but I got through all that despite all the health issues and despite having to go to the hospital every single month. I've spent so much money on medicines. I'm still paying off my credit cards. I still have thousands of dollars of credit card debt. And I'm not telling you that as a sob story. I hope you can see my voice. I know it's a little late here. It's about 11 o'clock at night. I should be in bed and sleep, but I finished up this research that I was doing, and I really wanted to share it with you guys and gals. Let me take a break right quick. Kain Tabak says, I'm in IT, never lived abroad, but I've visited Tokyo one time, entertained the idea of getting a fully remote IT job and living abroad for a year or two. You can do that. I have a friend from Sweden who is in I guess you could say kind of north of Kyoto, in that area over there. She bought an old house, kind of fixed it up, and now I think she still got her boyfriend, and that's what she's doing. She's working for a company remotely from overseas, and she's working here in Japan because they have some spots in Japan. It's possible. If you can... There's an old song that I used to listen to, and I didn't think about it until I got older, but it talks about your desire that you have in your heart is evidence that you have the ability to get that desire. And I think that's a very important thing that people should understand. I'm not talking about something that's like a whim or something you suddenly want, or you see it and you want it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that's really part of you, something that's really part of your deep desire. That's more like your purpose. Your purpose is to have that and live that. And if you don't believe it and you don't go after it, you'll suffer in your life. That's what I believe. But anyway, this is actually connected to what I wanted to say, which is that some people on social media have been really gatekeeping and bashing foreigners and putting out a ton of negative videos. And I'm just tired of seeing it. I'm tired of seeing it, and I really wanted to make kind of an alternative for you guys and gals, so you can see some real data instead of me just telling you what I think and what I feel. I can give you my opinions all day long, but I should never, and you should never, nobody should ever just give their opinions as fact. Anybody who says, I think it's around this, or my guess is that it's around this, or I speculate that it's around 50% or something like that. People who say that are full of something called hot air. And if you don't know what that means, it also means BS. It means they don't know what they're talking about. They are letting their emotions and their feelings yeah. Yes. Yes, he changed his name to Japan Reporter. I won't make any comments about Nobita. I won't make any comments about him, but I stopped watching his channel a long time ago for various reasons. But, you know, no judgment. God bless the guy. You know, he's got a successful channel. It's just not for me. and it's not the path that I want to go. I mean, there's a reason why I have just under 3,000 subscribers. I haven't been trying to grow my channel. I've just been trying to save my life. That's been my main focus. My main focus is to live. My doctor said, you're going to die in a couple of years. Well, that was a year and a half ago. And he said, best case scenario, if I take medicines, maybe 8 years. Well, I'm not taking medicines right now. Meshta. Well, Meshta is, at least Meshta is humorous. And sometimes he does say truthful things. He doesn't, the thing about Meshta that's good is that he doesn't put sugar on things. I don't agree with everything he says, but I can definitely, I do sometimes watch his videos. I can tolerate some of his nonsense, because sometimes I feel like he does bash foreigners a little too much, but I think he also recognizes that certain foreigners are causing more problems than others. But I have some perspectives that these other guys don't have. I studied in a language school, and I was surrounded by a lot of foreigners. There's a huge influx of poor countries into Japan, and it's been happening for several years now. If you go to any language school here, what you're going to see is a ton of poor countries students here, and they have completely flooded in on these work-study programs, and a lot of Japanese people have really no idea what's going on, but the government is selling them down the river. And the guys on YouTube blaming it on foreigners that are maybe similar to me, I don't understand that, because foreigners like me, and I dare say foreigners like you, are not the problem. And most YouTubers, most are not the problem. There are a few foreigners here and there, and a few social media people here and there who get blamed for things and cause a stir, but the vast majority of them are not troublemakers, and that's the fact. But they're being presented as if they're all trash, and they're not. But anyway, one second. I have a little bit of a cough. I didn't want to share it with you in the microphone. But here's the deal. I've got a document here that represents the research that I did today. It's quite long, and I'll try to get through it as quick as I can, but it's very important that I share it. Feel free to listen to as much as you want. You can come back and finish it up later, but if you really are interested in this topic, or you're interested at all in coming to Japan, possibly to stay for a while, to live, to work, etc., or to buy a home, it's very important, I think, that you listen to this. And you also would benefit to listen to this if you want to avoid the trap of getting sucked into misinformation and negative YouTube channels and social media channels. And thank you, kind. Same thing to you. God bless you too. Videos about the intern system in Japan, basically, they seem like pseudo slave labor. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But it's a lot deeper than that. We're not going to get into all that in this video, because that's actually kind of a separate topic. But see, that's part of the problem, is that a lot of that negativity has been blamed on foreigners that are here doing YouTube or buying Akiya, and these are completely different groups of people. They cannot be put together, because they're here from different countries, they're different people, they're doing different things, and they're here for different reasons. So they can't be lumped together, but they are being lumped together by certain people. But let's get into this now. Let me read for you the intro and the parts that we're going to cover, okay? But basically, recently, there's been this ongoing negative narrative spreading around about foreigners in Japan, and I'm talking about online. It's usually by people that are hiding behind their video cameras. They're not putting their face on the cameras a lot of times, and they spend their videos constantly attacking foreigners, citing their own opinions, and made up statistics as if they're facts. They're just making up statistics, but they don't actually cite anything. People like this are driven by their own emotions and personal agendas. They claim that Japan, they constantly again and again, they keep coming out with videos about Japan closing its doors to foreign entrepreneurs. Foreigners can't own property, or they shouldn't own property here, despite them actually owning property as foreigners. There's also the anti-foreigner sentiment. They say that there's more and more anti-foreigner sentiment in Japan, and it makes living in Japan hostile. Well, where is it? Where is it? Because I live in Hiroshima, okay, and there's absolutely zero hostility towards me. The people here love me locally, and in the bigger city and in the large city, I never have any problems, and I love my neighbors. My neighbors take care of me, and I take care of them. So today, my hope is that we can calmly and factually take a look at these claims and see what's wrong and rebut the things that need to be rebutted. We're going to rely only on reputable sources, okay? I took the time to do the research so that I can give you sources in order to create an accurate picture instead of just giving you my personal opinion, okay? I'm not going to tell you, you're not going to hear me say, it's probably around 50%, or most of the people, most of the foreigners, or most of the YouTubers are doing this. I will not say that. I will never say that, because I would be pulling those statistics out of my butt, and I'm definitely not going to do that. There are three main parts to this video, okay? Part one is the real situation for foreign entrepreneurs and the new visa opportunities, okay? Part number two is the facts about foreign property ownership in Japan. And part number three is the truth about anti-foreigner sentiment put into real context, okay? So by the end of this video, there should be one clear message, and that is, if you dream of living in Japan, whether you want to start a business or just buy a home, you won't let fear-mongering and misinformation deter you, okay? You can follow that dream and make it happen, okay? And I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not just trying to paint with rose-colored glasses on or paint you a rainbow. I'm just being honest. This is the truth. So let's get started with part one. Here's part one. Startup opportunities and visa realities for foreigners, okay? Japan is often seen as a tough place for foreign entrepreneurs, and it hasn't historically been very easy, but in 2025, the truth is that Japan is actively opening up pathways for foreigners, for foreign innovators and business people. It's not closing the doors, it's opening the doors a little more. And in fact, for foreign talent, the Japanese government has been introducing what are called game changer visa programs to attract global entrepreneurs and skilled professionals. So this is the opposite of closing the doors. They have an expanded startup visa program as of this year. As of January this year, Japan expanded its startup visa nationwide, and you can look that up on ehousing.jp. This program allows foreign entrepreneurs to reside in Japan for up to 2 years in order to launch a business without immediately needing to meet heavy prerequisites like a physical office or a large capital investment. All of those things can be put off until later. It's designed to remove barriers for starting a business in Japan, not make it more difficult. This gives founders time to get themselves established. Before that, in the past, startup visas were very limited to certain cities like Tokyo or Fukuoka, etc. But now they're available all across Japan, from major cities or from major metro areas to rural areas even. This clearly shows that Japan wants fresh business ideas and is actually laid out, they've laid out a welcome mat for foreign entrepreneurs. This is the opposite of closing the door. Yes, yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Kind topic, I appreciate that. Okay. Let's go down to the next part. This is also part of part one, the startup opportunities and visa realities for foreigners. There is an easier path to long-term work and residence in Japan now than before. Japan is also making it easier for foreign professionals to build a life in Japan. In 2023, just a couple of years ago, the prime minister at the time, Fumio Kishida, greatly expanded the work visa rules in order to address labor shortages. A special work visa category that previously let foreigners and their families stay indefinitely was confined to just 2 industries. So now it has been expanded to 11 industries. And this is according to theweek.com. In other words, Japan has actually flung the door open even wider. Before it was just barely open, now it's much wider to 11 industries. So foreign workers in agriculture, healthcare, manufacturing, and more. And by the way, here's a side note on this. Right down the road from here, a 25-minute drive from my house, is a little place called Saratown. I was out there in Saratown not too long ago, just a couple of weeks ago. I go there sometimes to do grocery shopping or whatever. You're talking about a place that is out in the middle of the countryside, okay? It's in the countryside. There's no train station out there. It's easiest to get there by car. Maybe there's a bus, but there's no bus from here to there. I have to drive to go there. Now, when I was out there, I saw several people riding around with the hijab, or the I think it's called a hijab, what the Muslims wear, the girls wear, the Muslim girls wear that, and I saw all them riding around bicycles, and I thought, there's no school here, there's no English or Japanese school here. Why are they here? They're out there because they're working in the agricultural industry, and this is exactly what it's talking about. The only way they can be out there is if they're working a job or going to a school, and there's no school out there. That means they are working, and they're riding around on bicycles. That means that they've got worker visas. They're working in the agricultural industry 25 minutes out here from my house. Why? Because of this program. If it weren't for this program, they wouldn't be out there. And by the way, a few years ago, I never saw anybody out there from these other countries. Indonesians, Nepalese. I never saw them around here, but now I'm starting to see them in all these towns. Even here, just a couple of days ago, I saw them here in this town. I'm telling you. That's right, Saracho, that's right. Now, where I'm at, by the way, is Toyosakacho. If you look up Toyosakacho, that's where I'm at right now. And the other day when I was at the thrift store in Toyosaka, I saw a few guys riding their bikes down the road. Once again, they looked Indonesian to me. Why are they here? Because they are here under these new working visas. So when the industries were opened up a little more, Japan opened up a little more, it has created more room for working visas. This is the opposite of Japan closing off. Anyway, back to the article. These are radical visa changes, and they amount to rolling out a welcome mat, because one report put it this way: Japan's demographic reality leaves it no choice but to admit foreign talent. So the result is that the number of overseas workers in Japan more than doubled in the past decade, and the total foreign resident population, including students combined, has jumped by 50%. Is this Japan closing its doors? No. Now, next point under point number 1 or section number 1 is no backlash. All of these changes have had no backlash, all right? Contrary to the claims of naysayers online, these pro-foreigner policy shifts have not provoked any massive public outrage. There has been no massive public outrage in Japan. You've got some very tiny groups that are angry at some very specific people for doing specific things, but against these changes there has been no public outrage. Analysts note that Japan has not seen the severe anti-immigrant backlash that European countries have experienced. This is reported in theweek.com. This is a reputable source. Most Japanese people appear content with bringing in needed foreign workers. A recent government survey in 2023 found that only 23.5% of Japanese citizens viewed the increase in foreign residents negatively. This is a minority. The majority of people were either positive or indifferent, with the younger Japanese being especially welcoming. That's according to unseenjapan.com. And in April 2024, a poll was done by Asahi Shimbun. 62% of the respondents actually supported the government granting more visas to skilled foreign workers, up from 44% in 2018. So more people actually approve of the foreign workers now than before. So these numbers hardly suggest that Japan is uniformly hostile to outsiders. On the contrary, there is growing acceptance that foreigners are actually a part of Japan's present and future, at least for now. Yeah, it is really good news, isn't it? So here it's important to note something, that moving to Japan or starting a company here in Japan, it still requires effort. You still have to put in some effort, of course. You need planning, and you should integrate in the local culture. That's true. Language barriers and bureaucracy are very real, and even from my personal experience, I can absolutely tell you, you will be limited in what you can do and accomplish in Japan if you don't attempt to learn the language and get good in the language, and understand and work through the bureaucracy. But the narrative that's been given by some people that Japan doesn't want foreign startups, Japan doesn't want foreign workers, is called BS. It's plain false. Anybody who says that is going against the actual news, the actual information, and the actual polls, the actual Japanese people, the whole situation. They're painting it in a completely opposite way. Why are they doing that? Maybe because they're gatekeeping and they don't want you here. They're here and they already have what you're seeking to get, and they don't want you to have it. Well, forget those people. You can do what you want. The government's own actions here in Japan, expanding the startup visas, creating paths for the workers to settle indefinitely, and incentivizing the foreign talent, this is showing that Japan as a country is trying to welcome those who contribute. And they don't let, so you shouldn't let anyone twist this into a tale of closing doors, okay? And closing opportunities and tight windows that are closing. The doors have been opening wider and wider in different areas in Japan, wider than ever. And it's backed by official policy. Some of this policy is as recent as this year. So if people are telling you that the doors are closing, why would they be passing policies in 2025 that open the doors even more? Makes no sense. Yeah, you're right. Well, there's a shortage of elder care workers. There definitely is. So it's funny because whenever I actually take the time to date, I go online and I start chatting with somebody, and I decide to go out on a date. It seems like 80% of the time she's a medical worker. She's a nurse. It seems like almost all the women in Japan are nurses. Yeah, that's serious business. That's serious business. You know, when I went into the hospital here in Japan a couple of years ago, I had a blood clot in my leg and I had to stay in the hospital 2 months. While I was there, I walked through the children's ward, and that really, really bothered me. And I thought a lot about the people that don't have the money to be at the hospital, whether they have to be in the hospital and their kids are at home, or their kids are in the hospital. How can they be there? How can they be both places? And I just wanted to be able to help them, and I couldn't. There's nothing that's harder than really wanting to help somebody and being moved and knowing that somebody could really use your help, but you just can't do it. There's nothing worse than that, in my opinion, in my heart, in my life. Unfortunately, some people who spread negativity online are only citing their personal frustrations as evidence, not giving any sources. They may sneer at newcomers with dreams, claiming that all their efforts will surely fail. The facts that I just gave you a moment ago tell a different story. Japan is not some impenetrable castle or fortress. It's a nation that is evolving slowly but gradually. to embrace more foreign innovators and residents. If you have a solid plan and the determination to make it in Japan, then the system today is actually far more supportive of you and what you're wanting to do than it was even just a few years ago. This is absolutely 100% true. Part 1 is finished. Okay. Got through it. Hang on a second. We got part 2 coming up, but I need a cough. More coffee. Ooh, man, this is a lot of talking. I do baseball play-by-play on my other YouTube channel. So usually I talk for about 2.5 to 3 hours, but this is the second time today I've had to talk a lot, so maybe I'm over the limit. I'm like a pitcher going into extra innings. I've thrown the ball too much and my arm is tired. Part 2, foreign property ownership, myths versus facts. Okay, so this is part 2. Part 1, we talked about the startup opportunities and visa realities for foreigners, the way it really is in Japan. And part 2 is foreign property ownership, myths versus facts. Let's begin, shall we? One of the scariest claims that I've seen floating around on the internet is that foreigners shouldn't or soon won't be able to buy property in Japan, and that a crackdown is underway, or a crackdown is on the way, a crackdown is right around the corner. You might have heard someone ominously warning that Japan is going to ban foreign buyers, or that only suckers believe foreigners can own homes here. But what is the actual truth? The real truth, okay? Not someone's truth. We're talking about actual truth. Fact number 1, foreigners are legally allowed to own property, including land, in Japan. Now, someone might say, yeah, but not for long. There's nothing on the books to change that right now. There are no laws barring foreign nationals, even those who are not residents, from purchasing real estate. In practice, a foreigner can buy a house or a plot of land in Japan just as a Japanese citizen can. Unlike some countries, Japan imposes no citizenship or residency requirements on property ownership, and this has been the case for decades. So if anyone claims that you shouldn't be able to buy property here if you don't live here, they're stating an opinion only, not the law. The reality is that Japan has been one of the most permissive real estate markets in the world for non-Japanese buyers. And the thing is, people are trying to say that there's a problem with it. What? Well, if you look at the Akiya problem in Japan, every day there are thousands and thousands of more homes that become empty and abandoned. You know, Akiya, literally, if you don't know the word Akiya, it just literally means an empty house. It doesn't mean abandoned, it just means empty, unoccupied. Nobody lives there. Do you know how many Akiya there are in Japan? It's a ton. There is a serious problem with these houses. And guess what? Most Japanese don't want them. Japanese don't really like old houses. Not only are they inconveniently located, but they just want something new. They want a new house or a new apartment. That's just how most modern Japanese are. They aren't like a lot of Westerners like me and other people. They don't like the idea of buying an old house and fixing it up and renovating it and turning it into something nice or a cafe or a business. Some do, okay? And some like that and some do that. I'm just telling you what most Japanese prefer. That's fact. Let's pause there for a second before we get to fact number 2. There's a question in the chat. How likely or difficult is it that I could find an inexpensive apartment to rent in the suburbs of Osaka or Tokyo, like Saitama, 1 month stay? Well, if you're talking about renting an apartment for 1 month, very difficult, unless you can find a foreigner to rent from. If you're going to do something like that, I would recommend going on something like Craigslist, and you can maybe find somebody who's got an old house. You can sometimes find a foreigner who owns an old Japanese house and they will list it for rent. And maybe if you told them, listen, I'll pay you rent in advance for 1 month if I can stay there, maybe they'll rent it to you. And the good thing is that a house like that is generally very, very cheap. You might be able to get it for just a couple $100 for 1 month. It's super cheap. But if you want to rent an actual apartment for 1 month, I think that there's no way to do that unless you're going to go through something like Airbnb. And if you go through Airbnb, there's no telling how much you're going to pay. I wish I could give you a better answer, but you know, that's the way it is. If you actually want to stay in a real apartment, then your probably only option is Airbnb, and that's going to be kind of pricey. But if you're willing to stay like in an older Japanese house, then maybe you can find something to rent just for 1 month. But the thing is, if you want to get an apartment, you're probably going to have to go through an agent, and they're not going to rent to you for 1 month. Nobody does that. In Japan, they typically like to rent for 2 years. If you're lucky, 1 year. I've never heard of anybody renting for 6 months, but 1 month, no. I just don't think that can happen. You're going to have to find a special situation. So maybe go look on Craigslist. Maybe try that. If you're looking for a place in Saitama, look on Craigslist and look for Saitama. Okay. Foreign property ownership. Fact number 2. There is no blanket crackdown stopping foreigners from buying homes. What is true is that soaring real estate prices, especially in Tokyo's condo market, have prompted discussion and data gathering about foreign investment. Interesting. In 2024, Tokyo's average new apartment price hit over 100 million yen. That's about $690,000. This is pricing many locals out of the market. They can't afford it. The locals can't afford to buy it. This is coming from JapanLandPrice.com. Some analysts partly blame an influx of overseas money for driving up the prices. And in response, Japan's government announced its first ever survey of condominium purchases by foreign nationals. The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism is analyzing 5 years of transaction data, which is over 550,000 condo sales, to see just how many were bought by foreigners and whether speculative buying is affecting prices. This is some very important context, okay? So pay attention. This measure that was brought up by the government is a fact-finding measure. It's not a ban. It's just a measure that they put into place to gather information and see the facts. That's all. It follows some calls by a few politicians to consider limits on foreign property ownership. But as of right now, there's no such thing as a law preventing a foreigner from buying real estate for personal use or investment. And there is no such thing as them creating or passing a law or working towards passing a law to limit that. The government simply realized that it lacked the hard data on foreign buyers, so it's now collecting that information in order to guide any future policy changes. Okay? Gathering data is not the start of prohibition, despite it sounding like alarmist rhetoric. It's a cautious step in order for them to understand the market. That's the fact. Okay, number 3. Fact number 3. Foreign buyers make up a minority of the market, though in certain areas their presence is notable. Okay, very important. International investors, particularly from elsewhere in Asia, like China and Singapore, have shown growing interest in Japan's property, from some of the really nice, flashy Tokyo apartments, to rural getaways and places like that. But they are not buying up the entire country. For example, even in central Tokyo's most popular wards, foreign purchasers accounted for roughly 10% of high-end condo sales in recent years. This is from JapanLandPrice.com. You can look this up. Nationwide and in rural areas, the percentage of foreign owners is much, much smaller than that. Most of Japan's 8 million plus empty houses, Akiya, are empty because of domestic issues. Not because of foreigners, they're empty because of domestic issues. Aging population, younger Japanese moving to the cities, inheritance problems and quirks. For those of you who don't know this, a single property can be co-owned by like 7 or 8 different family members. The way property rights works in Japan is very strange. That's why sometimes it's so difficult to buy a property, because you might have 3 family members that want to sell it, 2 family members that aren't sure, and then 3 other family members that don't want to sell it. You know, yes, maybe, don't know, no, and then they argue and bicker, and you might not ever get the property. You might have to give up on it because they won't sell it. I got lucky because this house belonged to just one lady, the widow of the man who owned it in his name, so it passed directly just to her. I got lucky because she was willing to sell it to me, and so it was not very difficult for me to get the property. But all of these domestic issues are the main problems causing the empty houses, not foreigners grabbing these empty houses and then abandoning them. Actually, the fact is that foreigners buying up the abandoned houses has been a drop in the bucket phenomenon that helps draw attention to Japan's depopulated areas. There's even a new cottage industry, an industry of services helping foreigners find and renovate cheap Akiya homes. So these are far from parasites, okay? These foreign buyers are injecting money and life into communities that the locals themselves have left behind. Seriously, if you look at my neighbors around here, I have one. There are a few houses out here and they're completely empty and they were abandoned. There's even more property over here, land and more houses that I know belonged to the same family that owned this house, and they told me straight to my face that they abandoned that. They just let it go. They didn't pay the taxes on it. They abandoned it to the government, and now it's the government's problem. So how does that have anything? And I came here, and yes, I've got a huge task, and I've got a ton of stuff to do to fix up this place, but I'm a good example of a foreigner coming in, putting a little bit of time and love and care into a community that the locals have literally left behind. So the idea that there are many parasite foreigners coming in here, buying up homes and abandoning them, and it's not true. It's just somebody's rant, that's all. Fact number 4. Japan's permissive stance is now a political debate, but any changes would target speculators, not genuine residents. It's true that Japan's openness to foreign property buyers is almost unique. By some accounts, the lack of any restrictions or extra taxes on foreign buyers borders on the absurd. Other countries, and that's according to japantimes.co.jp, other countries like Canada, New Zealand, etc., they've recently imposed taxes or bans on non-resident buyers to cool down the housing markets. Japan is discussing whether it should do something similar for overheated city markets, but no concrete policy has been enacted at all. The focus of concern is on large-scale investors driving up prices in Tokyo, not on individuals buying a home to live in. So these things are getting conflated and mixed together where they shouldn't be. Government officials have floated ideas like restricting corporate or non-resident purchases in certain areas, or curbing rapid resale flipping of properties. But again, these are ideas being studied and not laws on the books. If you're a foreigner who dreams of buying a house in Japan to actually live here or to fix up an old countryside home, there's absolutely no policy targeting you. And there's no policy even being considered that could target you. It has nothing to do with you at all. So don't let fearmongers confuse you with some nuanced economic policy discussion with an anti-foreigner tirade or crusade, because that's what it is. Call it what it is. I think it's a very important point for you to understand that what the government is really looking at it as a problem right now has nothing to do with a person dreaming of coming to Japan, buying a house, maybe outside the city or in the countryside, fixing it up, turning it into a cafe or turning it into their vacation home or whatever. Nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with particular areas, people, corporate purchases, non-resident purchases with the intention of flipping houses. This has nothing to do with you. Well, I already, in the live chat, he says, I wish I could give you a list of the Japan-related YouTube channels I've been following. Some seem they have agendas, some not. Some have influenced my thinking about Japan, some haven't. Well, see, this is why I made the video, because if you want my opinion about something, you can always ask, and I'm happy to give you my opinion. But if I don't know about something, I'm going to tell you I don't know. Anybody who says it's a lot, most foreigners who come here abandon their properties and they leave their properties, and these people are scum. It's got to be 80%, 80 or 90%. Where are they getting these figures from? These figures don't exist. Those things are not real. Those are lies. They're just ranting. And once again, I'm telling you, there's a real problem in Japan with some foreigners, and it's called gatekeeping. So some people get here and they get established. They get a management position somewhere at a training school or wherever. It doesn't matter what kind of job it is. I'm just using a school as an example. Or they come here and they settle down in Japan. And the funny thing is, here's the irony, they do all of the things that they are now bashing everybody else for doing. Everybody else is a loser, and they say, I'm the only one who tells the truth. I'm the only one with the truth. I'm the only one who does this. I'm the only one who will tell you that. Really? The only one? But where are the facts? Where are the facts? That's very important. And that's what I wanted to share with you, are the facts. So, speaking of the facts, let's expose some of the hypocrisy and some of this scaremongering that's going on with some of these YouTubers and these social media guys. Some of these very same online personalities that are shouting, foreigners shouldn't own property here, they often own property. They own property in Japan. And the only reason some of them own property in Japan is because they happen to be married to a Japanese person. That's the only reason. So what makes that person special versus a foreigner who's not? Like me, I own a property here. Now I have residency. It's not permanent residency yet, but I do live here, and I bought this property. I'm not married to a Japanese person. Am I somehow not worthy to own a property because I don't have the card or whatever it is I'm supposed to have? It's crazy. So some of these people are saying foreigners shouldn't own property here. They themselves have property in Japan, and they built a following online by talking about their life on Japanese land, building their own lives on Japanese land and in Japan, while bashing other foreigners who are trying to do the same thing. It's a classic, I've got mine and I don't want you to get yours. It's like crabs in a bucket. When you try to climb out, they pull you back down. They hurl insults at other foreigners, calling them shills, calling them suckers. These are people who are actually excited about buying homes in Japan. And yet, they offer no evidence that those buyers are causing harm. They call them these names, and yet they have no evidence that these people are actually causing harm to Japan. So the truth is that many local Japanese governments welcome foreign home buyers in these depopulated areas. There are government-affiliated Akiya banks, they're all over Japan, listing vacant houses, specifically hoping that someone, it doesn't matter if they're Japanese or foreign, doesn't matter, They'll come in and rescue these properties from ruin. Every time a long abandoned house gets restored and occupied, it benefits the community by boosting the tax base, and it adds a new neighbor. It helps the government, it helps the community. Why bash it? If anyone is worried by the don't buy here, Japan is going to kick you out narrative, you need to inform yourself with facts. Foreigners have successfully purchased homes all over Japan, from downtown condos to countryside farmhouses. So you must do your due diligence, because many old homes need heavy repairs, like my home. And buying property always comes with taxes and paperwork. But there's no legal wall stopping you from ownership. And there's likely not going to be anytime soon. Even if the new rules emerge down the line, they will likely be aimed at foreign corporations or absentee investors or people flipping properties in specific areas. These people never set foot in Japan, and not at ordinary people like you or me who want to be part of the community and build something real here. One Bloomberg commentator noted that Japan's issue with housing is affordability and vacancy, not an excess of foreign buyers. It didn't say anything about there being too many foreign buyers. So rather than slamming the door on foreigners, a lot of discussion is also about how to encourage more people to move into underpopulated regions. And there will be more on that in just a moment. 1 second, please. Yeah, there are a few people like that. Now, I don't actually follow a lot of people who do Japanese YouTube, but the main reason is because I live in Japan and I have my own life and I'm busy doing my own thing, so I have no reason to watch Japanese YouTubers. But occasionally I see a video pop up, and when I see the title, it just makes me facepalm. More bashing going on, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So, part 2 in summary: don't buy these social media guys' scare tactics. A foreigner can buy property in Japan legally and pragmatically. There's no imminent crackdown. I keep hearing about this imminent crackdown. Oh, it has begun. It's one step closer. We're on the way. No, there's not. There's nothing like that that's coming down the pipe, not for people like you and I. Only a government collecting data to make a smart policy, more specifically related to specific areas with, business purchases and people looking to flip, outside investors who never come to Japan, these types of things, corporate things, not people like you or I. So if someone tells you other than that, ask them for a source, and they won't give you one. They won't give you one because there is no source. If they just offer you, trust me, I know, because this is my background. I live here, or I feel it. I see it. People talk about it. People have told me. Japanese people have told me. None of these things are sources. You know the facts now because I gave you everything. I gave you here is cited from reputable news sources and websites. So you can see through what's called the FUD, the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt. Okay, part 3. Understanding anti-foreigner sentiment in Japan. Okay, the context and the reality. 1 second, please. I apologize. Sometimes I need to clear my throat or cough. All right, let's get through this. It's almost midnight. Holy cow. I need to get to sleep. Part 3. Understanding anti-foreigner sentiment in Japan, the context and the reality. This is the last part, and it deals with the claim that Japan is seething with anti-foreigner sentiment. Japanese people don't want foreigners around anymore, and that things in that area are getting worse and worse. This topic is sensitive and complex. So we're going to take a look at it carefully with a little nuance, okay? We're going to look at it in a more detailed kind of way and with some factual context. Not emotions, not feelings, not anger, but facts. First of all, yes, of course, there is anti-foreigner sentiment in Japan with some voices. But that's no different than any other country. I'm not going to tell you that there's no such thing as no anti-foreigner voices in Japan. That would be silly. Of course there is. That's like saying there's no racism in Japan. Of course there is. But that doesn't mean that it's a big problem. Can you say that there's no murder in Japan? No, you can't say that. Of course there's murder in Japan. But not everybody's running around killing everybody. So you can't just, oh man, there's a murder. Japanese are just murdering everybody. You can't say that. It's not the way data works. Recently, there has been a small but loud uptick in xenophobic rhetoric, especially in some political fringes. A new right-wing party calling itself Japanese First, Sanseito, you may have heard of it. They've gained some attention by railing against a supposed silent invasion of immigrants. That's according to a Reuters.com article, if you want to look it up. This party, which started on YouTube, you heard that right, it started on YouTube. It has used fear of foreigners as a rallying cry, even spouting conspiracy theories during the pandemic. In the 2025 Japanese upper house elections, their agitation pushed the mainstream ruling party to talk tougher on immigration, and the government announced a task force to crack down on crimes by foreign nationals and vowed 0 illegal foreigners. That sounds like what's going on in America right now. Such rhetoric, once confined to the fringe, has definitely come out of the box into mainstream discussion. So this is real, and it's important, so we shouldn't dismiss that, okay? Economic stress, weak economy, and rising prices, this has made some Japanese people quite susceptible to blaming foreigners for their troubles. So you have to look at the cause. What's causing them to really have this? Is it the foreigners only, or is it something else? According to Reuters, a reputable news source, it's economy, weak economy and rising prices. It is true that Japan's foreign population has grown, and it's hit a record 3.8 million as of last year, 3% of the total population. And that's a new experience for this society. I can vouch for that too, because I remember during the pandemic when I would go to Hiroshima City, I didn't see any foreigners at all. I couldn't see any. But now I feel like, my God, I can't go anywhere without seeing foreigners. That's one of the reasons why I like being way out in the countryside, is because I typically don't see foreigners. But now I'm starting to see Indonesians and Nepalese everywhere. It's like, man, where can I go and just see Japanese? So it has increased a lot. Until, or I guess you could say that in the 1990s they had very few immigrants, according to this article. So in short, some level of native pushback is definitely happening, but perspective is very important. The loudest voices are not representative of the Japanese people as a whole, nor is Japan descending into some kind of xenophobic frenzy where foreigners have no chance at a good life. Actually, it's very far from that. So we have a few points to consider. The first point is public opinion is split. It's not overwhelmingly anti-foreigner. A broader survey, or broader surveys, paint a more encouraging picture than the angry YouTuber narrative. The Japanese government's 2023 survey, which was mentioned earlier, found that while 23% of citizens had negative feelings about the rising number of foreigners, about 29% felt it was positive, and nearly half were neutral. Younger Japanese generations are also notably more open and curious about foreigners than the older generations, as reported by unseenjapan.com. Many Japanese see benefits to having more foreigners, such as cultural exchange. are helping to alleviate labor shortages, even as they worry about social adjustments. It's not a picture of a country that hates foreigners. It's a society adjusting to change, generally practical and even welcoming, but cautious about potential issues. So, as one long-term observer noted on DW.com, calling Japan xenophobic outright is just way too strong. Japan is in fact gradually accommodating more and more outsiders and has made significant strides in doing so. They've actually improved at this. I'd like to make a side note on top of this. Like I mentioned earlier, I've experienced no such xenophobia. Everybody in Hiroshima treats me really well. Point number 2, government policy. Government policy aims to welcome foreign help with conditions. The Japanese government itself, despite some mixed messaging, knows that it needs foreigners to care for its aging population, to go to staff industries, to keep rural towns from vanishing. Policies in recent years show a begrudging but clear trend towards acceptance. For example, Japan set up a specified skilled worker program that invites tens of thousands of blue-collar workers from overseas. Initially, these workers were on time-limited stays, but as of 2022 and 2023, the policy was changed to allow many of them to stay indefinitely and even bring their families. This is according to theweek.com. This is a monumental shift for a country often perceived as closed. Moreover, Japan's Internal Affairs Ministry has even encouraged foreign nationals already in Japan to join regional revitalization programs in the countryside. Yes, that's correct. The government wants more foreigners to move to rural areas and help revitalize communities. So who's talking about foreigners buying houses and abandoning them left and right and causing a big problem for Japan and the government? Now they don't want them buying houses anymore. The opposite is the truth. The government is actually encouraging. They want foreigners to move to the rural areas and buy homes and revitalize the communities. It's opposite. The truth is opposite. In fact, around 1,300 municipalities, 80% of all cities, towns, and villages in Japan have signed on to programs that pay people, including foreign residents, to relocate from big cities to smaller towns. They're not just paying Japanese people to go to these areas, they're also paying foreigners. Under one program, a household can get 1 million yen just for moving, plus an extra 1 million yen per child under 18. As of 2021, a few thousand people had already taken up this offer to move out of Tokyo, and this isn't limited to Japanese citizens. Foreign residents who have or obtain a long-term visa can also qualify. So if Japan doesn't want the foreigners to be out there and buying these houses and living in the rural areas, then why would they have this program? It doesn't make any sense. Somebody's not telling you the truth. The aim to this is plainly to welcome newcomers into aging towns, not to exclude people. It's hard to reconcile these facts with the claim that Japan doesn't want foreigners. At least on a policy level, Japan is literally providing financial incentives for certain foreigners who meet certain requirements and qualifications to come integrate into the local communities. They want families there, and they're giving money to Japanese and foreigners alike. Did you hear this from the people who are spouting off their foreign hatred? Probably not. Next point. Everyday interactions tend to be polite and positive. Beyond politics and policies, what is life on the ground like for people like me in Japan, foreigners in Japan? What's it like living here? While experiences vary from person to person, and some people who are younger or older, whatever, it varies. Many foreigners, especially those who've made an effort in learning the language, participate in the local customs. They report friendly relations with their neighbors, their colleagues, and customers. Japanese society highly values politeness and hospitality. And omotenashi, if you're familiar with that, it's a type of hospitality. Hey, the garbage separation is no problem in the city. Try moving to the countryside. Now, some of the burnable garbage you can literally burn outside if you have the space. But if I want to take the plastic and the cans and all of that stuff somewhere else, I have to take it, I have to drive it somewhere. It's very inconvenient. And then I have to pay for it. It's ridiculous. As a foreigner in Japan, you might get some extra stares or the occasional awkward comment or moment, but you're equally likely to encounter, more likely actually, to encounter kindness and curiosity on a daily basis. In countryside areas, foreign residents often describe being treated as minor celebrities or guests, honored guests. It's very common. Sometimes the novelty wears off a little bit and they settle into more normal community life once they kind of get used to you. But of course, no country is 100% welcoming to outsiders. Japan has its own issues, like landlords who won't rent to foreigners. It's very common in Japan. Or police doing identity checks that are supposed to be random, but they seem to target people who are clearly not Japanese. Now, the funny thing is, I've been in Japan now for over 5.5 years, and I've never been asked for my ID by a Japanese policeman. I've heard of people being stopped non-stop when they're on bicycles, because bicycle theft is a real problem in Japan. But as many times as I've been out on my bicycle, I've never been stopped. I've been driving now for several years, never been stopped. I've never even had a policeman just ask me if I have my ID on me. I've never been asked. So there you go. Maybe the people that get stopped and asked, they don't look trustworthy. So there are some real problems being debated in Japan's media and in the courts, but they are increasingly acknowledged as problems that need solving rather than accepted as normal. Okay, so there's a difference. Just because there's a problem and it needs to be solved doesn't mean it's normal or common. For example, a senior Japanese police official admitted in 2023 that officers were actually instructed to target foreigners for extra searches. You see? It caused a public outcry, and the officials scrambled to clarify that such profiling is not okay. The very fact that this made the news shows discrimination is being confronted in Japan, not condoned. So if foreigners were being told, admittedly by the police, if the foreigners were being targeted more often on purpose, of course there's going to be a disproportionate amount of issues with them because they're getting stopped more often and there's much less of them. They make up 3% of the population basically. But think about that. If they're targeting them and they're constantly stopping them, and then several of them have a problem, it makes it look like there's a big out of control problem with troublemaking foreigners, but it's because of disproportionate stopping by the police. Yeah, I mean, I don't even drink, but I've got several reasons for that. But I don't have any reason to go out drinking. But Japanese go out and drink a lot, and they stumble around. You can see them sleeping on the sidewalk sometimes. Salarymen just sleeping on the sidewalk, even early in the morning. I saw one in Kagoshima, maybe about 6:30 in the morning. He was passed out next to the kombini, had his full suit on, and he was completely passed out right there. Cup noodles and a beer next to him. Sun was coming up, and he was still there asleep. Crazy. All right. Next point. Foreigners are making lives in Japan successfully. Dun dun dun. Finally, consider the outcomes. Japan's foreign community is growing and diversifying every year. That's true. And in many cases, thriving. Over 3 million foreign nationals now call Japan home. That's a statistic. UnseenJapan.com. They include long-term English teachers, factory workers from Vietnam, Indonesia, Nepal, IT workers, even Myanmar. I had classmates from many different countries. Professionals from India, entrepreneurs from America, Europe, Sweden, students from all over the world, people with Japanese spouses raising bicultural kids. These individuals wouldn't stay here in Japan if life was truly so miserable and horrible. Now think about that. Some of these people who have married here or built their families here or built their lives here, talking about how horrible and hostile things are for foreigners. Why are they doing that? Did you ever ask yourself that question? Why are these people that have bought houses here, started businesses here, they have their lives here, they have their families here? These are foreigners we're talking about, not Japanese, foreigners. And they're talking about all these other foreigners who are trying to do the same thing, like they are stupid, lazy shills and trolls and haters and blah, 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 blah. Insert negative adjective here. Why are they doing that? It's very important that you think about that. When you listen to somebody on YouTube and they are just bashing foreigners who want to do the very same things that they've done, you might want to ask yourself, why are they doing that? Unsubscribe, don't recommend channel is what I would say to you about those people. Many foreigners have put down deep roots in Japan. They open businesses, they buy homes, they pay taxes, and they contribute to society. The success stories far outnumber the few noisy pessimists that are on YouTube, and Japanese people by and large recognize these contributions. In a 2020 government survey, for instance, nearly 68% of Japanese respondents agreed that more foreigners would boost cultural exchange and broaden Japan's horizons. Only a small minority, about 24%, feared that foreigners are taking jobs away from Japanese. In fact, 2/3 disagreed with that fear. This suggests that the average person in Japan isn't looking at foreigners with hostility, but with a mix of practical acceptance and mild concern about cultural differences. Now, none of this is to say that everything is perfect in Japan. Of course it's not. They face a balancing act. Everybody knows that. It needs immigration to a certain extent to help sustain the economy right now. It's not a long-term solution, but that's the way it is at the moment. Yet parts of its society are cautious about embracing too much diversity too quickly. Understandable. Anti-foreigner sentiment does exist. It does exist, and may even grow a little bit as the population of foreigners increases. But it's crucial to separate the real nuanced picture from the hyperbole, okay? The exaggeration. The reality is that Japan is not an anti-foreigner dystopia, okay? They're not making laws and trying to pass laws and discuss things on ways to keep foreigners out, kick them out, make it cost more to come here, and make it impossible for them to buy homes. That's not happening. But Japan is also not a utopia of open-armed integration. They aren't just opening their arms to foreigners and saying, come to Japan. But at the same time, they're not against, like I said, they're not trying to stop foreigners and shoot foreigners down. It's neither. Those are both extremes. Japan is a country that is gradually adapting to change, slowly but surely, where most people are polite or indifferent to foreigners. Some are very welcoming, and only a few are vocally opposed. Anyone claiming that Japan hates foreigners and will never accept you is cherry-picking the worst and ignoring the full story, and quite possibly making stuff up. And speaking of those who push the worst narratives, remember that some of the loudest doom and gloom commentators are the foreigners themselves. This is a crucial key. All right? These foreigners, for whatever reason, they've grown very bitter. They've got a chip on their shoulder about something. They might have had a bad personal experience, or maybe they have failed ventures. They view their life as a failure, or what they've accomplished as a failure, what they have as a failure, where they went in life as a failure, whatever. And now they are projecting their negativity onto everyone else's dreams. And they're doing it through social media. So they resort to mocking others, name calling, and dismissing positive news as lies. And anyone who has a different viewpoint is attacked. They also turn off sometimes their comment section below their videos because they don't like what people are commenting on their videos. So they turn off the comment section. They hide behind the cameras. They won't show their face. This kind of behavior says a lot more about them than it does about Japan, and than it does about reality or truth. So you should never let their personal grudges become your gospel. Never. We finally get to the conclusion. This is the last part. Thank you for bearing with me so far. This is the very last part. This is very important, so please hear me out here. If you have a dream to come to Japan for whatever reason, then keep your dream alive. Don't allow somebody else to rain on your parade. Don't allow somebody else to tell you that what's in your heart to do is somehow wrong or broken or ridiculous or impossible, or the door is closing, the window is closing, time is ticking. You know, the things that are meant to happen for you cannot be denied from you. If you're meant to have it, it cannot be denied. So if Japan, living here, working here, having a home here, whatever, if it's truly in your heart, then nothing can stop you from having that. Especially some negative naysayer on YouTube. If you have aspirations to move to Japan, start a business, buy a house, or maybe you just want to build a life here, maybe you want to find a spouse, I don't know. You need to know that it is completely possible. Any of those things, maybe all of those things, is possible. Many have done it successfully, and many more will do it. Yes, please do your homework. You need to understand that there are challenges, of course, but you shouldn't be deterred by those people who are using scare tactics and misinformation to push their own agenda of discouragement. Japan, just like any country, has its issues. Why am I in Japan? Is it perfect? It's because it's so great? No. It's not great. It's not perfect. There's no such place on earth that is great, perfect. Not that I found. There are places that are the best for me at where I'm at in my life at that time. And right now it happens to be Japan. So Japan does have its issues, but it's also a place where opportunity exists for open-minded, determined people. The policies are evolving, but actually to welcome foreign contributions in business and in community life. Laws and facts are literally on your side when it comes to owning property or being accepted as a resident in Japan. And more importantly than that, there are even Japanese individuals, companies, and communities who want to work with you. They want to be friends with you, and they want to see you succeed here. The government actually wants to see you succeed here. You succeeding here makes them succeed. So you should take heart, and the next time you hear somebody spout off about how foreigners have no future in Japan, or how the locals all hate us, or the door is closing, or it has begun, or the crackdown is on the way, or any of that other BS, you need to remember this. That cynic does not speak for all of Japan. Not even a little. Doesn't even speak for Japan a little bit. Not even a little bit. You need to look at the bigger picture and credible sources. Okay, don't listen to me, don't listen to anyone else. Look at the sources. If somebody tells you something and they give you the source and you look up the source and it's credible, okay, great, that's great. But don't just take somebody at their word, especially when most of what they're saying is narcissistic and hateful. And they're not giving sources. Just I think, I feel, I speculate, I think it's this, I think it's that. That's a narcissist. That's not a person with credible sources. The truth is a lot more balanced and hopeful than what you're hearing from some other people. So don't let that negativity from behind a camera kill your enthusiasm. Your experience in Japan will ultimately be what you make of it, okay? It's up to you. So you should stay informed, stay respectful, and stay positive. And with this approach, I believe that you'll find Japan can absolutely be, and will be for you, a welcoming home, and no internet naysayers can ever take that away from you. And that's the end of my research script. Kinda, I'm so happy you were here the whole time. Good for you. Congratulations. That was a long video. Yeah, you know, it's a little crazy. When I was first in Tokyo a long time ago, and I noticed the cardboard boxes, and I finally realized, oh, there are people in there. That was pretty amazing. Now those are homeless people, but the sidewalk sleepers you're talking about, like the salarymen, yeah, on the benches. It's funny you said you've seen them on the benches more often. I've seen them on the sidewalk, leaned against the wall, more often than any place. I don't know why. But thank you very much. Like I said, I don't often give videos like this. Most of my content is about what I'm doing in my house, you know. And I've got some updates that I need to post about that. I'll get on that as soon as I can. It's just that this was really on my mind. So many things have happened in my life, and I don't want to get too serious or anything about this, but you have no idea, you really have no idea about how many years I spent in my life blaming everything and everyone else for all of the seemingly bad things that were happening to me. Because, you know, this is not, this most recent illness is not the first time I've had a serious illness. It's not the first time I've had a doctor tell me I was going to die. It's not the first time that, it's not even the second time that I've been close to dying. There have been several times when I was a kid, when I was a younger man, and then more recently. And I just keep getting through it. My family rejected me. My own daughter rejected me. My wife took her and went away. And no judgment on them. You know, I want to make that very clear. I'm not judging them. There's a song that I wrote not too long ago, and the song is called Thank You. And in the song it talks about I thank all of those who were there for me, but also I thank all the people who walked away from me, because even those people helped me. They helped me in their way. And this is the way I wish most people would see life. And that's my desire, is to always see everything happening in my life is exactly what I need to get me to be in the exact perfect place that I need to be. And so you could say it's about being positive, but it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. It's changing your emotions so that your emotions are completely under your control. And when your emotions are completely under your control, then people or events happening around you don't bother you. They don't get to you. And when I see someone on YouTube constantly putting out videos that are bashing foreigners coming to Japan, bashing foreigners buying houses in Japan, you know, saying the sky is falling, the the hammer is coming down. Japanese and the government, they're cracking down. Japanese are hating foreigners more and more. Foreigners are screwing up everything. Foreigners are abusing the healthcare system, and just on and on and on and on. I can't accept that, because that's not true. People are getting a lot of lies and misinformation. I'm not sure of the reason why that's being disseminated that way, but I just want to make sure that you guys get the correct information. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how you miss those things? You're just walking along or jogging along, and you see it, but it doesn't really register until later on. And then when you realize, oh, there were people there, it gets kind of crazy. But anyway, I had 4 votes on the poll. I'll go ahead and end that now. There's so much going on these days. It is now 12:30 a.m. It's well past my bedtime. But thank you for being here. Thank you for listening in. That's all I have to say today. And for those of you who have felt a little discouraged or deterred from coming to Japan, or buying in Japan, or working in Japan, and you feel like you're racing the clock now, or it's become more impossible or harder than before, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. If it's truly in your heart, then it was meant for you to have it. You just have to believe it, and when the door appears, just open it and go through. That's all. Good night to you too. You're welcome, and thank you for being here through that whole thing. I really do appreciate that. And until next time, hopefully I have a nice update about what I'm doing here at my house. But until next time, all I have to say is, Janet.